tonight and all week, gang, we're in Detroit, all right? Detroit City, the 8th largest city in the U.S., and it's the murder capital of America, a town where the sound of the factory whistle has been replaced by the nightly sounds of gunfire and emergency vehicles screaming to the site of yet another teenage homicide. A city where over 300 teenagers are murdered every year, where the police confiscate an average of 60 guns a day, where you can buy an Uzi submachine gun on the street for $290. I know, we tried. We've come to Detroit to examine this situation and to see if there aren't any solutions to the vicious cycle of teenage drugs, guns, and death. And Detroit will solve it themselves. Join us. Let me, if you will, introduce our guests tonight at home base and at our loudmouths. We have at home base, I should say we have at loudmouth number 1, C. Vernon Mason, who is a famed attorney. At home base, we have with us General Laney, the Reverend Al Sharpton, I see Al's about as popular here as he is in Birmingham. And we have Professor John Flynn, and at loudmouth number 2 we have Vera Rucker. Let me start with General Laney, if you don't mind, sir. And General, give me a little bit of your background, will you please, sir?
I'm the executive director of the Motor City Sports Association.
You're the Director General of the Motor City...
Yeah, we teach people how to defend themselves.
All right. All people?
Yes.
You got a lot of white people you teach to do that, too?
Some.
All right.
Mainly we teach women gun safety.
All right. Well, I don't see anything wrong with that, but you've said that the biggest problem facing blacks in Detroit, you didn't say anything about whites, is that they don't have enough... Wait a second, man. Cool it. Zip it. Is that they don't have enough guns. Now, wait a second. Given the fact, all right, that Detroit is the murder capital of America, and most of those killings are done with firearms. How in the hell...
First of all, we're not the murder capital anymore.
Huh?
We're not the murder capital anymore.
You're the teenage murder capital.
No.
General, you're the teenage murder capital.
Those teens whom we have had that have... It's unfortunate that anyone has had to lose a child to violence. But a lot of those kids were not, shall we say, on the up and up. When you get out into this type of situation, when you're doing drugs and involved in drugs, that goes with the territory.
Getting killed.
That's right.
Oh, let me go to Vera Rucker. And listen, gang, you're going to get a shot at these loudmouths in a little while, all right? So let's go with our guests and hear what the hell they have to say. Vera Rucker, I want to talk to you because you've just heard General Laney argue that for more guns in the hands of, I guess, punks and teenage gangsters...
No, I didn't say more guns. I said if the citizens cannot defend themselves. See, we can't depend on the police to protect us.
Listen, I'm like you. I believe every citizen should carry a gun.
But what I'm saying is we can't depend on the police.
But I've heard, General, I've heard statements made that the reason, and they've been given to you as the statements, accredited to you, that the reason the black community should keep their guns is to keep the white communities from coming in and raping their women and taking their...
That's one of our problems.
Now, I don't...
That is
Wait a second. Now, let's cool it, man. But I don't see the babes and the guys from Grosse Pointe trying to sneak in.
Oh, no. All we got to do... We're right here on Woodward Avenue. And you can walk right out of here and go straight up Woodward Avenue.
1 block.
And you'll find white men down here after black women. Because we have been taking their cars. The police have been taking their cars, and these guys are coming from the suburbs down into Detroit after the black prostitutes.
All right, but no. is indeed something that's absolutely true. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, General, when you run a grocery store and you've got an apple for sale, someone's going to pick it up, not necessarily Eve. All right?
No, but the thing of it is, when you're in that grocery store, them few pennies that you make is all that you got.
Right.
See, you can't even get no insurance. Matter of fact, there's not a black-owned supermarket in Detroit. They've all been ran out of Detroit.
Let me go to Vera Rucker. Vera, let me come to you. Let's say that he hasn't said give them to punks and teenage gangsters, all right? But that every citizen should have them. Now, you're all too familiar with guns in the hands of Detroit punks. Tell me what happened on the night of August 17th to your daughter. And she was a teenager, too, wasn't she?
Well, first of all, I can't deal with this, the way we're going on here, because we're supposed to be grown-ups. And it seems that when I came down, it wasn't per se me debating General Laney or all of this.
There are debates for you.
Okay,
Really
it is, Melody was killed August 17th, 1986. She was at a party. A group of kids came through. They was asked to leave, and they came back and shot through the crowd, and Melody was shot.
Melody was shot by a group of other kids.
Yes.
Were they white or black kids?
They were black kids.
They were black kids.
She was shot with a shotgun. She was shot with a shotgun, correct?
Yes.
The kid that shot her with a shotgun. This was not a handgun, but this was a shotgun. Go ahead.
The point is, indeed, of course, we know that they all killed. John Flynn.
Yes, sir.
This is probably one of the greatest statisticians in the country. I don't always agree with his statistics, but here you are again. What percentage of this inner city violence is really racist in nature?
Well, you probably have each crime should be treated separately. Mm-hmm. And I think when you say racist, you're talking about interracial crime, black on white or white on black.
Well, let's face it. The reality is most crime is black on black. All right.
Yeah.
We hear all of the so-called wide-eyed press talking about the black crime on America. It's usually black on black. All right, and it's usually white on white.
There's an interesting thing that's developed in some of the large cities. For example, in the subway system in New York City, there are more whites against whom felony crimes are committed by blacks than blacks. And just to do an overall picture, just for a second. Yeah.
There are more. What you said to me.
There are more blacks who are victims. I mean, there are more whites who are victims of felony crime by blacks than there are blacks.
Where?
On the subway system in New York City.
Subway
that's
system.
because if you attack a black, it's a misdemeanor. And if you attack a white, it's a felony.
Wait a second, Reverend. Wait a second. I don't recall Bernard Goetz even being charged with a misdemeanor. He was charged with a felony.
No, Bernard Goetz, I'm glad you raised that. Bernard Goetz was charged with nothing until people like C. Vernon Mason and William Kunstler and I went in and made them get a second grand jury and indict him. Bernard Goetz was not charged.
You love the grand jury there, Don.
No.
You love the grand jury working against the white man. You love the grand jury.
When we were going to protect the law, we asked that he be indicted. We didn't say we loved the grand jury.
Well, you
love
them enough to go work against a man who had been attacked by blacks.
No, we
but when you had a woman who was allegedly attacked by whites,
they would not indict at all. They would not indict at all, so we were not working with the grand jury.
And what did the jury do?
Against the grand jury.
And what did the jury do? It found him not guilty, right?
No, a grand jury indicted him.
A grand jury indicts, it does not convict.
That's what I just said. Right. They indicted him.
But the real jury...
You just emphasized my point.
The real jury, of course.
He should have been rewarded with life in jail.
No, he shouldn't have.
He should have been rewarded with life in jail.
He should have been. We should have rearmed him.
Well, see, the problem I have, Morton, is if we are going to have a society where we're going to take guns and fight back, why take the easy way out and fight some punk in the project? Let's go to the suburbs, to the fat guys that bring the dope in here, and let's shoot them.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Let's shoot them.
I couldn't agree with you more.
They don't want people in their neighborhood bombing their neighbors on interracial. They want to go
let's hear the numbers. Let's hear the numbers. Skip it, Al. I want to hear the numbers.
Interracial crime. A black in the United States, a black man, is over 15
According
times
to
more
who?
likely.
Tell us where you're getting
I'll
this
give
from.
I'll give you the source after I give the fact. For once
No, give
in the
the
history
source so we know
of your
the
life,
fact.
you're going to listen
Give
to
the
some
source so
facts.
we know the fact.
A black is over 15 times more likely to murder a white than a white is to murder a black.
What?
A black is over 20 times more likely
According to who?
to rape a white woman than a white man is to rape a black woman.
Listen.
Here are the numbers.
Where did you get the stats
The
from?
Justice Department.
Of what?
The Justice Department.
Whose Justice Department?
The United States of America Justice
That's
Department.
totally inaccurate. The Justice
Seaburn and
Department,
Mason.
I know has
Let me hear from Seaburn and Mason, all right?
One is, Mr. Flynn has never opened his mouth about Tawana Brawley. So I don't think you want to discuss rape or kidnapping.
I'd love to.
No, I don't think you want to discuss that case.
Love to
But
discuss
let me just say this, Morton. If we are going to be serious about this, Roy Ennis, at the time he was advocating on behalf of Bernard Getz, both of them went out and said, what we need is a Getz Ennis patrol in New York City. We need to arm 25,000 people. What we're talking
Blacks
about...
and whites.
They didn't necessarily
That's
break
right.
any of it down.
Well,
But
when you got a
this-
Getz and an Ennis,
this
it's
is
black
the
and
basic
white.
point.
No, when you got Getz
We
and
are
Ennis, it's all
supposed to
No, it's
have...
not.
We are
All white
letting
and
the government off. We're supposed to have a federal and state governments in each state and a federal government. Bush just got elected. What we're basically saying is we don't even expect for them to protect us anymore. We don't even expect for the police department to do its job anymore. Let us just go out here and arm all of ourselves and we'll do it ourselves.
But
that is what
Vernon,
is being said.
Vernon,
That is what is being
happening,
said.
what is happening is that the American people, black and white, are recognizing that the hands of the police have been cuffed in many cases.
No, they haven't been.
Oh, they've been cuffed
Not in
tremendously
terms of-
by
not
the
in terms
liberal
of- no,
politics of this country
Mort,
that says they
Mort,
can't defend
Mort,
people
we
anymore.
have represented too many people like Darrell Caby in the Bernard Getz case.
Darrell Caby
who
was a
shot.
sweet little kid, right?
Darrell Caby was shot in
He
the
was
back.
scum.
He was not scum.
He was
not
scum,
scum.
Bernie.
He was not scum. All right. All right. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Why would you call a boy shot in the back scum?
I'm talking about in the Getz case.
Why was he scum?
Because he was one of the guys who wanted to intimidate Getz into getting money
true.
from
That's
him.
not true.
According to the
That's not
case,
true, Martin.
Darrell Caby was shot in the back. He didn't ask Bernard Getz for anything.
When he
It's this
came
whole-
and ran,
It is this whole
when he
blanket
came,
indictment
when he
of
came,
young black kids
when he
that
came,
serve us.
I don't care if it's
Only
white
scum-
or black.
The
it
only
doesn't.
scum in the
I
Getz
don't
case
care.
was Getz.
No,
That's the only scum. The only scum in the Getz case.
you're wrong.
You're wrong.
No,
You're wrong.
totally
You're
wrong.
wrong.
Because you have blinders on.
Bippy,
You
you're
do.
wrong.
We'll be right back. Talk to him. Come on. Okay. Let me introduce the new player we have here. Judge Leonard Townsend is with us from the Michigan court. Judge, you sit in judgment on Detroit's criminal court, all right? Is Detroit a city under siege by gun-toting teenage thugs?
I'd say without the slightest equivocation that Detroit is a city under siege and living in fear of bodily harm by teenagers, young people carrying weapons. No question about it.
There have been people who have demonstrated that perhaps what they need to do is have some tough action brought against teenagers. There are those among us nowadays who are saying you got the drug dealers hiring 13 and 14, 15-year-old kids to do their assassinations. And we know in this society in which we live, you can't do anything to a 13, 14, and 15-year-old kid. Isn't it about time we start thinking that you can?
Well, under the current state of the law in Michigan, our courts cannot handle juveniles until they are at least 15, and they have to be waived by the juvenile court. To get anyone any younger than that in an adult criminal court, there would have to be a change in the law. We can only deal with what the law says.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why hasn't the judicial system in Detroit been able to stamp out the epidemic of teenage violence and murder? And why aren't you looking these pimple-faced punks up?
Well, I can
Zip
tell
it,
you,
I want to hear him.
I can tell you this. We have complaints about prison overcrowding, about there being too many people in prison. And the prison people are under orders from the federal courts to let people out because there are too many people in prison. The reason...
So why don't we let these people stay with the lawyers who want to defend them all the time?
That's absolutely, I agree with you. I agree with you. Now, we don't elect federal judges. They dictate. They say, your prison system can only stand so much because if you put too many people in this cell, that's cruel and unusual punishment. Prison is for punishment. A prison is for punishment.
Yeah, well, we've gotten so much into the prisoners for rehabilitation that we've forgotten the punishment element.
I agree. I think that the prison should be for punishment. It should be uncomfortable. It's not a country club.
Let us finish here, man.
I don't think that people should be sent to prison to take a vacation. They're not supposed to like it. They're not supposed to be comfortable. And the space that they're occupying, or the space that the courts have dictated that they have, that is more space than we give a recruit that goes into the Army or into the Marines. They have more rights. The prisoners have more rights than a person who is recruited into the Army.
Judge, for just a minute, and our audience will hear this. Our guests at home will see this. I'd like to ask to run a tape, all right, that we have made a compilation of some of the teenage violence in this city this year. And may our audience hear at least the audio track of this tape if they can't see the video. Please roll it.
Hey, you just step out your door and somebody walk up to you, ask you, do you want to buy a gun?
The story told by 15-year-old Julius Jones may be the most incomprehensible of all of these tragic shootings. Julius says he got into a fist fight with another young teen in his neighborhood. He thought the fight was finished, but 1 month later, the other boy returned with a gun and shot him in the neck in cold blood.
I was just laying there. Then I asked this guy named Jimmy to lift up my left arm because I kept trying. I couldn't lift it up. Then I was trying to move my legs when I was laying down. I told him I can't move. And I kept asking him, is I'm going to live.
Wouldn't you be scared if somebody shot you with a gun?
Do you feel lucky to be here today?
Yeah.
Many are not so lucky. The rate of teenage shootings in Detroit is already outpacing last year's one-a-day figure. But statistics alone don't tell the story. Part of it is told by what the kids have to say, and now they are all saying to us, we had better listen.
Reverend Al Sharpton, your advice to teenagers is to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and rise above your circumstances. Yet the next moment, you're screaming for affirmative action or minority set-asides. Aren't you sending your usual mixed signals to America's black teenagers?
No, not at all. I'm not, first of all, calling for set-aside. I'm calling for people to realize that the problem of young people emanates out of this society. The judge talks about violent kids. I mean, it's strange to me because our problem home has been violent court scenes. I mean, I gave your producer today a tape where court officers vamped violently on innocent people in a courtroom. And I challenge you to have the court officers on here and we'll talk about that. It's not just kids.
Well, let's challenge those court officers right now.
I challenge Dennis the Jerk Quirk, the head of the New York State Court Officers Union, to come on here and I'll bring evidence that they beat innocent women in a courtroom in New York on October 28th.
Right.
Now, coming into this tape that just played, we are trying to talk about these kids in a context that these kids just popped up. These kids are a result of a society that there used to be an expression of hate that hate produced. This is the hate that America produced. Somebody yelled out where their parents was probably working for your parents and never got paid. And nobody where these kids came from. You will not give them a job. You would not give them an education system that will train them. You would not give them anything. You throw them in the streets and they become candidates for hustlers and pimps because that's the only option
the statement was
society has given them.
The statement was just made by, unfortunately, a white man that it's the black leaders who are doing that.
That's right.
Now why? It's just made by a white man that it's the black leaders who are fomenting this type of violence by not getting into a black neighborhood.
They have the power to do that. There are certain black leaders that are not.
They have the power in Detroit.
No, they have the power in Detroit to put people in jail, which I understand this judge does. They do not have the power in Detroit to stop whites in the suburbs from bringing drugs in.
Black crime is caused by the black community. Black crime.
Where does the drugs come from?
Black crime is caused. I don't have to answer your question. Black crime. I can answer it.
You can't answer.
You're speaking of New York. Detroit is
I'm talking
altogether
about
different.
Detroit.
No, Detroit is different
Black
than New York.
people in Detroit don't bring the drugs into Detroit.
Black people in Detroit.
Do not bring the drugs into Detroit.
It's not about people.
They do not bring the drugs into Detroit.
You're making an issue out of drugs, and drugs is not the whole issue. You have more ignorance than you have drugs.
But drugs.
Do you have the ignorance because of an educational system that's failed?
That's right.
An educational system that's failed not only the blacks, but the whites and the Hispanics also.
That's right.
But also blacks. I'm concerned with blacks.
Well, I'm concerned with Americans. We're all Americans, man. I'm concerned with that. I'm concerned with this man, with this man, and with this man. And all of these people out there. Look at it. Is there anyone with enough guts, all right, to stand tough in the face of gang violence? Let's find out next. Let me introduce you to loudmouth number 2. We have Pastor Lee Earl, and we're going to come to you in just a second, Pastor, but our gentleman, Mr. Seaburn Mason here, had a comment to make, and you didn't get a chance to make that.
Yes, I did, Mark. This is what I wanted to say. Number one, in 1984, this pamphlet, Saving the African American Child by the National Alliance of Black School Educators, was produced and compiled after years of research, Dr. Don Smith and others all over the country. This was sent to every single school board. It was sent to the president, sent to various representatives. Those persons basically took this report and discarded it. One of the reasons is basically this, and until America comes to grips with this, we're just talking about solutions. We can put people in jail for the next 40 years. We can do like Wilson Goode did in Philadelphia and drop a bomb on folks and kill them. We can do all of that. But the basic point is basically this. Most of these folks who back here hollering and screaming, their parents and my parents and grandparents came from completely different backgrounds. Those were persons who are not willing today to even come to grips with the history. The history tells me that for 246 years, you want to know where the parents were? I can tell you where the great-grandparents were. They were in slavery, and we have never been paid for that. That has never been dealt with. Basically, right now, we're dealing with it now. Let me deal with this. You are dealing with it right now. It does not matter whether you have Coleman Young in Detroit. Doesn't matter whether you have Wilson Goode
Coleman
or
Young,
a racist
Coleman
like
Young,
Edward
incidentally,
Koch
who
in
didn't
New
have the
York.
guts to
Does not
come on
matter.
this show.
No, he has the guts. That's not
No,
the
he
point.
didn't. He didn't have the
point
guts.
is, Coleman Young does not have the power to change the conditions that produced those 15-year-olds.
But what you're saying, you are telling me to go into a huge...
They are our children, Mark. They are our children. Just like
Vernon, you're right.
Our child.
You're right, it's our children. But don't hang the guilt of 246 years on me. I know I'm good.
Mark, that's not the point. I'm not addressing you that way. I'm saying basically this. All the people that are hollering and screaming, are they willing to stand up the way, as some of your daddies and mothers to do like your father did? Are they willing to do that? What it means
I think they would be.
No, that's not what they're talking about. That is not what they're talking about.
What they're talking about,
They are talking
burning,
just like all these
burning
other
the
folks have this
messages.
hate
The
and venom,
message.
and they want to kill black
Listen to
folks.
me a second.
That's what we've been
Listen to
saying
me
in
a
New
second.
York.
The messages that are sent to the white community and the black community, all right, in this country, by our politicians, by our media, is to keep us apart. It creates a great industry of poverty, a great industry of racism. People are getting rich on that. None of these people are getting rich on it. I'm not, you're not. What we've got to do is cut through that crap with education. What we've got to do is stop making ourselves feel guilty for what our great-grandparents did and go in our own hearts. In our own hearts.
We must, in this country, deal with the legacy. We talk about the Holocaust. We had an American Holocaust right here on these soil, on this soil.
And the Holocaust
has to be dealt with.
And the Holocaust is continuing.
It has to be dealt with. Flynn, all he wants to do is cite statistics. That's all he wants to do.
You know, the thing that I think that everyone always confuses is everybody says after having a 246-year advantage to let's forget that and let's run equal now. If you want to run even, then bring the line back and let's start together. Don't have a 246-year head start and then tell them all of us,
but how many years?
Way out ahead.
How many years do we do that?
No, that's years. You're not dealing with years. You're dealing with setting up a basis of justice. You're not talking about years. Right now, black people are prosecuted and whites are not for the same crime in the United States. Right now.
Just not true. Just not true.
Right? Bernard Dent.
Let me tell you.
Weeks with the black
let me go to Pastor Lee. Zip it. I want to go to the pastor. Pastor, is the street corner crack sale the root cause of teenage violence, or are these stupid crackheads just slaves of somebody else's game?
I really didn't hear what you said in the first part.
Simply, is the street corner crack sale the root cause of teenage violence, or are these stupid crackheads just slaves of somebody else's game?
Well, I don't want to call them any names, but
any names? They're stupid if they're smoking crack, right? I mean, not very bright. They're not bright.
I don't believe that street corner sale of crack by itself is the cause of teenage violence.
All right, sir, what is it? What is it? What, in your opinion, what is the cause of teenage violence? And you know what disturbs me? Here we are in a city, a multiracial city, a great city, Detroit, 60% black, 40% white. I see one white man up here, one white man sitting here, who's quoting the most asinine statistics I've ever heard in my life. And I'll speak to my producers.
Let's hear your numbers, smartass.
What'd you say, pal?
Let's hear your numbers.
This is the same.
Let's hear your numbers. Shut up.
This is the. Wait a second. This is the same skinny. All right. Who says? Wait a second. This is the guy. I'll show you how much he likes America. He wants to legalize crack because he knows that'll wipe out the black community. It's genocide. We'll be right back. Is there any help on the way? Wait and see.
We're 31 UHF.
I want to introduce some of the gang we got with us. Boy, when I say gang, I'm talking about gang. I'm talking about David Brooks, who's with us. David, let me see the hand. There's David Brooks. You, I guess, the gangs we've heard about, and we've heard a lot about them tonight. You guys right here, gang members? All right, well, get up to those mics and tell us why the gangs, what do you do, how do you make a living, who do you kill, what are the initiations? What can you tell me about gangs? Who's the toughest ass here?
We ain't about that today.
That
was yesterday when we was about that tough, you know.
Now, what are you about today? Helping little old ladies across the street?
We ain't help old ladies. We're trying to help ourselves today.
When you're trying to help yourself, does that mean you got to get in anyone else's face?
Nah,
Does it
I
mean you
gotta
blow
get
someone away?
face. Nah.
Are you a member of a gang now? Isn't there an outfit called Boys Incorporated or something in this town?
It was an outfit called Boys Incorporated.
There's no such thing as Boys Incorporated.
No.
Okay, what do you guys do now? What, are you with a gang?
Nah, we ain't with no gang.
What gang were you with?
That's irrelevant what gang.
It's not irrelevant. What gang were you with?
That's irrelevant what gang we was with.
How long you been away from the gang?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years?
Yeah.
And you've been doing good stuff since?
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of good stuff? Tell me.
Well, I work today.
Okay.
I'm in recovery today from all my past.
Okay.
See, I don't linger on that. When I got shot, I left all that alone.
All right, so what you telling me? That's good. Yeah, look at it. An audience applause. How about you?
I ain't gonna let now one of y'all push my button, but I'm in treatment.
In treatment?
You know, and I'm also
the drugs?
Today I'm trying to turn my fool life around and help others.
Okay.
Because I was one of them. I'm not. Early in my days, I was a fool. Right. But today I begin to listen.
Can I ask you a question?
Anytime.
Do you know friends who are still members of gangs?
I know plenty of them.
Do you try and tell them to turn their lives around if you were a fool and that they're fools now?
That's why I come on this station right here.
Yeah.
So they can see me.
Are you in jeopardy? Are you in jeopardy now that they can see you?
Who?
Are you in jeopardy? Could you be in trouble now that they can see you?
You say I can say anything I want to, right?
You bet I did.
I'm not worried about on this earth.
Okay.
The best thing that I can be scared of now is that crack.
Crack? Did that get you one?
Walk around 2 feet, they kiss my ass.
Say that, big eye.
They kiss my ass. Because I learned today that I got one life to live. I might be scared now to say what I got to say.
You say it, pal.
But I ain't too damn scared to walk back out this door and go where I got to go. If they got problem with that, you can take them and rub them in your chest or take that back to New York.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Amy Devon, and I am the founder, executive director of an organization called KIND, Kids in Need of Direction. And I'll tell you, Mort, there's plenty of kids out there that need some direction after what I've been listening to here tonight. Embarrassing.
What kind? Why do you point to the audience and say plenty of kids in need of direction?
Just
because they didn't agree with everything?
Not because they didn't, because they are just downright rude. How can you have your guests heard if they're constantly yelling out there? And these people are coming up here trying to talk.
You're talking, Amy, about a large segment of America. When you say they're rude, you're talking about a large segment of America.
I see out here a lot of racists out there that make me sick to be a part of their race.
Out there?
Yes, I do.
You see racism?
Yes, I certainly do.
You can see racism
everywhere, and it certainly is right over here, and it's coming out. And that's one of the things that our agency is working on, is to try and improve race relations.
All right, and I think that's important. But I think racism oftentimes starts in the media.
It starts in the media. Right here, right now.
Media,
sure does.
That's where it starts.
And it also starts in the home as well.
Who are these kids here? Come on, gorgeous.
Hi, my name is Carla Thomas.
Carl, I love your songs. I used to listen to you all the time.
Really?
And I love your daddy Rufus. Huh? Go ahead, Carl. Tell me, what are you up to?
Well, I joined KIND a couple of months ago.
Why?
Because I had some personal problems concerning the law. And I'm working myself out right now, and I'm finding out that It took us so many years to get education, and we wasting it. You know, the kids are wasting it. I'm getting all the education I can.
Yeah.
All the education I can.
Now, let me ask you something.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you something, all right? You got nothing but nodding heads up here. But I'm going to ask you, how come you're white and you're not black and you're helping these kids?
Because I care and I'm part of the human race.
All right.
And you...
In other words, these are your racists you
Not
hear
just
applauding?
that either, pardon me.
Are these your racists you hear applauding? They agree with you.
Not
you
all
see,
of them
all
did.
of us. How many people here hate whites? Let me hear you.
Oh, that's...
All right? All right? How many people here hate blacks? Let me hear you. And have some guts if you do.
They sure are chicken
You
because of what
don't-
we've been listening
They're
to.
not chicken. What's happening is the accusations are being made left and right,
please,
blacks and whites,
please.
that there's racism, all right?
There's racism everywhere,
the racism
Morton.
is
It's
because
time
we
to
have
stop.
people screaming that the racism exists.
Well, I came here to talk about our organization and tell you what we're doing with
Well, I
Kind.
heard about your organization. She told it very well,
Very
all right?
good, thank you.
I tell you what, I want our audience to speak next. All of the people in the audience, stay with us. Let me start with the audience. Start with this gentleman first. Go ahead.
My name is Calvin Gibbs, and I've been going to Kind for 2 months. The reason I'm going, I have some problems myself. Since I've been going to Kind, I have solved them. And if it wasn't for Kind, I wouldn't be out here.
Have you solved those problems completely?
Yes.
Can you stay off the things and stay away from the people
Yes,
who got
I
you in
can.
those problems?
Yes.
And what are you doing to help other people now that you've been helped?
I can help other people out.
How?
If they step up. And,
They got to step up?
Yep. They got to stand up and be counted.
Why do we always have to wait for people to step up? Why can't we step down and
We
give
ain't
our
gotta
hand and
wait.
lift them up, pal?
We ain't got to do all that.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, my name is Ron, and I'm from Detroit, right here in the inner city, okay? And I come on behalf of all us Detroiters, okay? And what I'm saying, okay, as far as the bias and everything, I know it's been misleading for us young black people, and all, you know, I'm not just speaking for the black people, I'm speaking for everybody. And all I can say is just let's stop the violence. Let's stop all the drugs. Stop the drugs.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
I think what people have to realize is as people applaud people that have reformed their lives, had they adopted the philosophy of shooting everybody, these kids wouldn't have lived long enough to have reformed themselves.
No one wants
right out of this ghetto
no one
in
wants
Detroit,
anyone to shoot
one of the
everybody.
greatest people to reform themselves
No one wants
was
anybody
Malcolm
to
X.
shoot anybody.
I mean,
but
they've been great programs.
I sure as hell want my gun. Go ahead.
My question goes to the guy in the middle. How can you presume to come to Detroit City and talk about racism when in New York City you contribute to it?
Well, How do we contribute to racism? Before you clap for yourself, how do we contribute to racism in New York? To fight for people that are killed or raped is a contribute to racism?
Because you lie about the numbers.
So answer the question of the night.
What you're saying, no, it's not.
How do you interpret
lie about how many
the
it's
contribution to racism?
From what I have read in the papers.
Well, I don't know what you read, but that's what we do. And in every major city, we've got the same problem because we've got one federal justice system that does not feel that our people have any rights.
Why don't you worry about the victim instead of worrying about whether the perpetrator is black or white?
Ronald Brawler was the victim. But was she a victim?
That's racist.
Ronald Brawler is a victim.
Yeah, it is. When you start separating into black or white instead of worrying about them as
If
just
people won't go to jail because they're black or white, the separation was not made by me. It was made by the system.
We're all Americans, and this is America.
We're not all
Doesn't work that
Americans.
way.
We're not all Americans. We're not all treated the same. We all should be.
You're damn right we're not all treated the same. What about the poor white guy? Okay, hey, what about the poor white guy? Whose father makes too much money and he has to pay cash for college?
What
about the college?
Trying to excuse
the black guy can get,
guy.
or no, excuse me, I shouldn't say black. I should say black. I should say the underprivileged people that don't make a lot of money, can go to school on the government for free. Now, the so-called rich white guy whose daddy makes too much money, if my father told me I couldn't go to college, I couldn't go to college because he makes too much money. My father pays cash for my college.
What's too much money?
Huh?
What's too much money?
Well, that's none of the business. It's just too much money.
Yeah, it is.
If you make more than, let's say...
If your daddy's making $100,000, he can afford to send you, right?
Well, can he afford to send me?
Well, but if your daddy's making $40,000, he's still making Listen to me. If he's making $40,000, according to the government, he's still making too much, but he couldn't send you to college. And then other people can go to college, and you don't get the advantage. What you got to do is even things up in this country, man.
Exactly.
The poor guy, the middle class, which has been screwed, has gotten up for 40 years. They got to be taken care of. Wait. We're coming back in just a second. Come on. Go! Time we've got left. You got 15 seconds, pal. Make it.
You want to stop teen violence? I'll tell you how to stop teen violence. There are 4 things that have to happen. I don't care if you're black, white, or green.
Quick, give it to me.
The court's got to get tougher. The parents got to get tougher. The school's got to get tougher. And hate mongers like you have got to shut your mouth and let people go on it.
Wait a second. Go ahead.
One real quick thing, Mort. Significant things that occurred on election day was not the election, but the fact that a signal was sent all over this world by Bill Cosby, who contributed $20 million to a black college. If we are serious, we can't, what this guy just said, that, get tough, get tough, get tough. What you're talking about is trying to repair a situation, and I'm not going to stop saying that. If it makes people uncomfortable, that's tough. But the fact of the matter is that we did not come over here on the Mayflower. We came over here as captives.
Sir, wait a second. If you came over on the Mayflower, you were a hooker or a thief. Is that any better than a slave? That's what came over the Mayflower.
Right in the country now are the hookers and the thieves.
You
talk about affirmative action.
Couldn't agree with you more, pal.
Went to college on a set-aside affirmative action. I don't hear any of these people saying Dan Quayle is wrong.
Let me tell you, here's what the problem is. Try and remember the problem. We got a problem, man. The way you straighten that problem out is by not making excuses, by grabbing yourself by the ass, getting up, whether you're poor white, poor black,